All right, it is time for the CFL Power Rankings for heading into week number 7. Coming in at number 9, I have the Hamilton Tiger Cats. It has been an abysmal start to the season for the Tiger Cats. Bo Levi Mitchell has actually kind of found the fountain of youth. And I do think that this is a player that you can get like maybe a little bit excited about from a Hamilton standpoint and just kind of hope like, okay, here we go. But on the other end, you have had what I would consider to be absolutely best case scenario from Bo Levi Mitchell so far. And it has led you to exactly 0 wins. And that is, I think, pretty troubling from a Hamilton standpoint. So Tim White needs to be better. The defense needs to be significantly better. And they have a difficult matchup here against the Toronto Argonauts. I am very interested to see, because Hamilton has a bit of talent that could be interesting around the league. Whether it is Bo Levi Mitchell in a trade for a team that needs a quarterback to make a push, or whether it is a Barlow on the defensive side who look real good. You see the Lucha mask down there, look real good out in Saskatchewan with Corey Mace. So there's some interest there if the wheels continue to fall off in Hamilton. At number 8, it is the Edmonton Elks, who also have had an abysmal start to the season, and that one cost their coach their job. Chris Jones is out. Jarius Jackson is in on an interim basis. G. Roy Simon is in as the general manager. This is an interesting team going forward for sure, because they've actually played pretty well, but it has been mistake after mistake after mistake late in these games that has ended up costing this team. And I do think that Jarius Jackson coming in and maybe again being an adult in the room perhaps helps this thing out a little bit. So I don't think Edmonton is as bad as the record would suggest, and so that is why I don't have them as the worst team in the league here. At number 7, it's the Ottawa Redblacks. Admittedly, the record is about where I thought they might be. The play on the field hasn't exactly clicked in the way that I would like it to, but I do still think there is something there with Brown. The defense hasn't improved in the ways that I would hope, but I do think that this is still a team that is on the rise, and I still think there's reason to be excited out in Ottawa. At 6, it's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They do beat the Calgary Stampeders last week, and Zach Collaros finally looked like that guy. I'm not ready to put Winnipeg over Calgary in the power rankings just yet. I know that like Calgary just lost to Winnipeg, but 2 weeks ago Winnipeg lost to Calgary. So I'm not going to panic and all of a sudden the sky is falling out in Calgary, although the defense is dealing with some injuries, but we'll talk about that in a second. For Winnipeg, the fact that they seem to unlock something in Ontario Wilson is really interesting, with him, Dembski, Wolotarski as your receiving core until Lawler and Schoen get back. I think that's very fascinating. The thing that concerns me is this defense got picked apart last week by the Calgary Stampeders. They are still not getting any pass rush right now, and their secondary got carved up by a team that doesn't carve up many secondaries. So the defensive side of the ball is still a real worry for me. They're also last in the Canadian Football League in rushing yards allowed, so that's a problem going up against AJ Ouellette out in Saskatchewan this week. At 5, you probably guessed it, it's the Calgary Stampeders. Yes, they fell last week to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The biggest concern for Calgary for me is on the defensive side of the football. That was, as we talked about in the preseason, that was supposed to be the strength of this Calgary team, and it just kind of hasn't been so far. Mayer has been better than I thought, and I do think that Barnes and Philpott are starting to figure things out in kind of this next wave of receivers, and very talented receivers for the Calgary Stampeders. So it'll be interesting to kind of work your way through that. I still can't put this team in the upper echelon yet. I do think that this spot here is kind of a tier break, but we'll see how it goes. Coming in at number 4, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They taste defeat for the first time against the BC Lions. The injury to Hardrick is a real concern for me. You either have an immobile quarterback or an inexperienced quarterback. Neither of those are the best to lose your right tackle to, so that's frustrating. Defensively, they have been better than I thought. I still think they need one more real quality pass rusher, but that pass rush has been getting there a little bit, and I might just be critiquing maybe a little bit too much. But offensively, they are moving the ball. They took advantage of a few breakdowns in the BC secondary. I don't think Trevor Harris has to worry about Shea Patterson taking his job, but I don't think Shea Patterson has to worry about being Mason Fine next season. Like, I think he is developing into a pretty good quarterback. At 3, it's Toronto. There's still concerns about Cameron Dukes, but the defense came up with a big play against Montreal. The special teams came up with a big play against Montreal. You have Kadeem Carey. I would like to see these receivers be able to step up a little bit. And as much as I think Chad Kelly is a dreadful person who I wouldn't want in my organization, Dukes hasn't stepped up and taken that job in the way that some maybe thought he would. Even after week 1, a good performance against the Lions, it has certainly kind of leveled off a little bit. I would like to see Toronto make him run a little bit more. Like, I understand you're keeping the offense in that Chad Kelly worked with and kind of keeping everything warm so everyone doesn't have to learn a new system when Chad Kelly comes back in a few weeks. But you have Cameron Dukes in here playing a style that doesn't seem to really mesh with what all of his strengths are. So I'd like to see him kind of lean into that a little bit more. At number 2, I still have the BC Lions. And look, like, this offense is on a historic run, and it is so much fun to watch. The Lions are my favorite team to watch in the CFL, no doubt. With McInnes, with Hollins, Stanbeck, Vernon Adams is playing the quarterback position like a gosh darn superstar right now. And defensively, they're not awesome, so the games get a little bit wild. And that's the part of their game that I would like to see them clean up. But no question, this is one of the best teams in the CFL, and Vernon Adams is having one of the best seasons a quarterback has ever had, and we've had a few of those recently. But it's still at number 1, the Montreal Alouettes. I have said that they feel like the most complete team in the Canadian Football League right now, and yes, no Cody Fajardo is going to hurt that, but I don't think one loss to Toronto is going to knock them off of this spot. You lose to the number 3 team. I don't think you just automatically lose number 1. We'll see with a full couple of weeks what Caleb Evans can do, and they still have an incredible receiving room in Philpott and Julian Grant, Speaker as well, and Reggie White Jr. They still have one of the more talented running backs in the league in Fletcher, and this defense is still really, really good. They were just put in some bad situations against Toronto, so I wouldn't worry too much about Montreal just yet.